Cause I'm just going to pray. The disbeliever's going to hate. Habibi, I'm just going to shake. Shake it off.
Hi there. You may be wondering why I am creating these videos. Why would anybody set out to criticize a single religion when there are so many different religions in the world? Why pick Islam? It's a valid question, and we will get to the answer before the end of this video. Before that, though, I would like to be fair and share some of the positive impacts Islam has had on the world. Islam is a religion that liberates women and promotes women's rights. Some even say that Muhammad was the first feminist. As a woman in Islam, you are privileged enough that your husband is restricted to having only 4 wives. Unless you were married to Muhammad, he was allowed as many wives as he liked, and sources report that he had as many as 11 at one time. If your husband being with another woman bothers you, fear not. You may not even know of your husband's other relationships, given it's permissible to lie about having another wife to your first wife if you know it will upset her.
So can they lie in the context of, for example, if one says, I sense that you've got a second wife, can he say, no, I don't?
Yes, you can. You can say that.
You can say that?
Yes, I personally believe this is the hadith on the Master. لا يحل الكذب إلا في ثلاث. The Prophet said you can do it. If someone does this and they get caught, for example, or something happens, or some negative.
Or she just asks him, where were you last night?
Yeah, but even that, he can lie.
White lies?
It doesn't have to be white. It can be a black lie. Sorry to say. I'm not. This idea of a white lie it's a modern day thing that people say. There's in the classical works. Yeah. There's no differentiation there here in the kutub. Jurisprudential, the man can do it. It's up to the man. No woman can take that right away from the man. Okay, it's impossible.
So let's get this right, yeah? So that Islamically, any of us can get a secret second wife.
Absolutely.
Or any man for that matter.
Not secret. We can get... Islamically, there is no problem in a man getting married to another woman in Misyar without the first wife's knowledge. And there's no khilaf in this. Yeah. There's actually... I've not seen one solitary difference of opinion in any of the 14 generations of Islam. It's not there.
Which is?
Any scholar saying that, no, a woman needs to know, she needs to tell her, doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Moreover, even the Prophet Muhammad himself. I mean, there's a verse in the Quran, وَإِذْ أَصَرَّ النَّبِيُّ إِلَى بَعْضِ أَزْوَاجِهِ حَدِيثًا. If no one thought about this verse. When the Prophet, he kept a secret from some of his wives. Yeah. Some scholars, I'm not going to go into detail, but some scholars actually connect this with an incident with Maria the Copt and so on. And I'm not going to go into detail.
The reason Muhammad Hijab is not going to go into detail about Maria the Copt is that she was actually one of Muhammad's sex slaves. Yes, Islam allows men to have sex slaves in addition to their wives.
A Muslim man can have up to 4 wives at once. And in addition to the 4 wives, he can have an unlimited number of concubines, which refer to women who are basically have slave status. When they are owned by her master, a woman owned by her master has to freely give herself to the master. The master has the right to have sexual relations with her.
And how does consent play into this at all, or can we understand anything about consent from this end? Like, does the female slave have to consent to that, or is it kind of like because she's owned and so therefore?
In the classical thought, the understanding is that by virtue of the fact that she's owned, she does not have the right to consent. Or to withhold herself from her master. The master has the full right over her, and her consent does not play anything in this relationship.
And Muhammad, the pattern of conduct for all Muslims, got caught having sex with his slave Maria in the bed of his wife Hafsa.
It's better you hear it from me than from others, and also this is in the Quran. So you can't really this is a verse in the Quran. It is reported in Tabari, that and many other books of tafsir, that one day Hafsa went away and she was not going to be at home, and so the Prophet called Maria to the house of Hafsa, and it so happened that Hafsa returned earlier than she was supposed to, and she saw Maria leaving her house. So she became extremely enraged, and she became irritated with the Prophet ﷺ, and she said that, Ya Rasulullah, is that how much, how do I translate this, respect you have for me, or is that what you think of me in my house and on my day? He didn't do anything wrong. He's a human being and he has halal access to Maria. Okay, Hafsa has the right to get irritated. Yes, we understand that. It's her house. She has the right to get irritated, right? But technically, he didn't do haram. And our Prophet ﷺ did not commit haram, right?
When he isn't busy with his other wives or his multiple sex slaves, your husband will have plenty of time to spend with you. Some of the activities you can look forward to with your husband include, but are not limited to, being used as his tilth, which is soil ready to be seeded even if you are busy doing his cooking.
Regardless of what she's doing, whether she's busy cooking or whatever, when her husband calls her for that particular act, she should be ready and willing to engage.
Scraping semen off his clothes and being beaten. You may even be beaten so badly that your skin turns green, just like the woman in this hadith was. Luckily, Muhammad was there to make things right by condemning the woman for being in the wrong.
Islam and human rights are in 100% agreement that women should be beaten. We only differ on who should do the beating. You say only the state can punish women. Islam says no. Power should be distributed across kinship groups. And this means that the patriarch has authority to physically discipline members of his family, including his wives, if they violate important norms and values.
In countries like Afghanistan, women are frequently subject to violence by those who claim to love them most. This UN study shows that 87% of Afghan women experience some kind of violence in their lifetime, but that has nothing to do with Islam and its teachings on wife-beating. Muhammad's child bride Aisha said she hadn't seen any women suffering as much as the believing Muslim women, but let's not take that comment too seriously. But wait, there's more. You also get to cover yourself head to toe like you're the main character in a ninja movie. Why, you ask? Well, right after one of Muhammad's companions, Umar, saw Muhammad's wife Sauda taking a pee-pee, Allah told Muhammad to tell women to cover themselves. Interestingly, Umar had actually asked Muhammad to tell women to cover themselves previously. But let's also ignore the fact that a man came up with a verse that is now in the Quran, Allah's supposed eternal speech. All of this joy you will be exposed to is, of course, assuming you're lucky enough to survive your wedding night after being married off as a child, which was not the case for this 8-year-old Yemeni child bride who died from internal bleeding after her 40-year-old husband climbed on top of her and tried to do some interior decorating.
There's a story in the Examiner about an 8-year-old girl who has died from internal injuries. I think you understand what I'm saying, Louis. Internal injuries resulting from sex with her 40-year-old husband on her wedding night.
Where would anyone get the idea that it's acceptable for an older man to be climbing on top of a small child? Muhammad, the champion of women's rights himself. Muhammad led by example and set a precedent for all Muslim men when he fed his little pork puppet straight into the cavity of his 9-year-old child bride Aisha.
And all Muslims, don't apologize for the truth and don't distort the truth. There are Muslims that try to deny this. Oh, he didn't marry Aisha as a young girl. Ya akhi, look, that's not the way forward. We don't lie for the sake of our religion. Astaghfirullah. We have the truth. We're not going to cover up the truth if people find it embarrassing. This is the reality. Deal with it. Our Prophet ﷺ married a young girl.
Reports show that Aisha, who was actually still playing with her dolls at this age, given she was a little girl, was enjoying herself on the swing when history's greatest man interrupted to give her a wedding present she would never forget. 14 centuries later, and Islam is still preserving wholesome family values like child marriage.
Under Sharia, Muhammad was allowed to marry Aisha when she was 6. Would this be allowed under your system, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that many cultures practice to this day. And it's based on this biological reality. They're trying to maximize the fertility window of women. Marriage to 9-year-olds is not considered pedophilia. What is pedophilia are the practices of modern pedophiles who go into the closet and diddle little kids. That's abhorrent. That is an abomination. Islam does not promote that. Islam promotes marriage. It promotes family. It promotes these wholesome values.
And these wholesome values are still evident today. The 8-year-old Yemeni child bride was not an outlier. A UNICEF study showed that in Yemen, there was no minimum age for marriage and that girls as young as 8 were forced into marriage against their will. It also showed that 12% of females are married by age 15 and 32% by age 18. But once again, this has nothing to do with Islam and its teachings on child marriage. If all that wasn't enough, you can know for a fact that Islam is the go-to religion for feminists, as its founder understands women on a deep level. Muhammad understood that as a woman, you are a few pecans short of a fruitcake. Let's face it, you're really, really dumb. Fortunately for you, Muhammad has ensured that everyone knows that your testimony is only half as reliable as that of a man's given the deficiency of your mind. So fear not, nobody will take what you say too seriously. Given your stupidity as a woman, Muhammad made sure that no woman under his watch would ever be made a ruler, declaring, "Never will succeed such a nation as makes a woman their ruler." What a thoughtful man, prohibiting you from ruling so you don't embarrass yourself. Muhammad was even thoughtful enough to warn women to be on their best behavior, given he has seen hell, and the majority of its inhabitants are women. Why? Due to women's ungrateful attitudes towards their husbands, among other things. You know, their husbands who are allowed to have multiple other wives in secret as well as sex slaves, and who can choose to beat them if they step out of line. In 2023, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development did a study on discrimination against women in over 170 different countries. The study looked at discrimination in the family, restricted physical integrity, restricted access to productive and financial resources, and restricted civil liberties. 18 countries were classified as having a very high level of discrimination against women. Somehow, despite these liberating teachings we have just gone through, 16 out of the 18 countries were Muslim-majority countries. Conclusion? The person who conducted this study must have been a racist. Islam is a religion that has the best interests of individuals and the world at heart and promotes religious freedom for all, in particular, those who want to leave the religion. Muhammad, freedom fighter that he was, knew that leaving Islam would lead you to a miserable and unfulfilling life. Rather than live out the rest of your sad existence as a non-believer, Muhammad had the perfect solution: put you out of your misery.
Reliance of the Traveler, page 595. When a person who has reached puberty and is sane voluntarily apostatizes from Islam, he deserves to be killed. It was narrated that Ibn Abbas said, "The Messenger of Allah said, whoever changes his religion, kill him."
We could continue on reading hadith after hadith after hadith about this. But let's instead turn to popular Islamic scholars, dawagandists, and YouTubers who in the 21st century are proudly calling for apostates to be killed.
Do you believe I should be put to death?
I believe that the punishment for apostasy in a correct Islamic state is death.
This is a part of our religion. There's a reason to it. Yeah? There's a reason why there's a capital punishment. Because people like you, little weaklings, who leave their religion and cause corruption in the land by spreading it, the capital punishment in Islamic law would be applied to you. We have no doubt. And we're proud of that. And we, you know what, we'll be watching. We'll be watching.
I believe that that is the correct punishment which has been revealed by God.
I asked you to believe I should be killed today.
And I answered you, sir.
Yes or no?
I answered you.
Yes or no?
I answered you.
I think he said yes.
You want me to answer?
I said.
Yeah, you answered me.
In a proper Islamic jurisdiction, an Islamic nation, all of the laws of Islam and the Sharia as revealed by God should be applied. including the death penalty for not only apostates, but also blasphemers.
You
those who
didn't answer
insult.
me, yes or no?
We did answer
Yes,
you.
we did answer.
Yeah, so I should be killed.
We did answer.
I
your question.
deserve to be killed because I left Islam and became a Christian.
According to Islamic law, an apostate like you would be killed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
If someone leaves the religion and propagates the wrong faith, it is like treason, and in Islam the punishment is death.
I hear you clearly, heard you clearly. You said that if any person is to be killed, a Muslim that comes out of Islam, it should be in an Islamic state. That means that anybody that comes out of Islam in an Islamic state should be killed. Did I get you right, sir? I want you to make that very clear.
In Islamic state where the Islamic Sharia is followed, in Islamic state, if the Qadi takes a trial of the person, if he's caught and he changes religion, and if it's proven, in Islamic state, only a Qadi can see to it that if he has done treason, if he has done apostasy, he can be put to death.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
In Islam, it is not up to you to embrace Islam and then apostatize. Because we have rules and regulations. To come and accept Islam and then leave Islam, this is a crime that is the cardinal sin. This is something that has to be punishable in Islam to protect Islam and the Muslims. This should not be something that deters you. The fastest growing religion in the world is Islam. What does this tell you?
Well, Asim al-Hakim, seeing as you asked, I will tell you. But to do that, I will first need to take a look at the 2015 study conducted by Pew Research Center that you are referring to. Indeed, the study does in fact show that Islam is the world's fastest growing religion. It also explains the primary reason why. High birth rates. Why do Muslims, on average, have more children than those of other religions? Well, as we have already seen, little girls are married off at young ages and turned into baby-making machines.
They're trying to maximize the fertility window of women.
Reading this may be as surprising to you as it was to me. I would have thought the primary reason for Islam's rapid growth would have been the amazing evidences and proofs that it is the one true religion, but apparently not. In fact, a 2017 study also conducted by Pew Research Center showed that in countries like America, where the law is not governed by Sharia, Muslim youth are leaving Islam faster than you can say Muhammad was a kiddie fiddler.
24% of Muslim youth are leaving Islam.
Fortunately for Islam, another Pew Research Center study shows that apostasy laws still exist today and are most common in the Middle East and North Africa, where 13 countries still outlaw apostasy. A 2017 report by the International Humanist and Ethical Union, now Humanists International, affirmed this finding in their annual Freedom of Thought report, stating that 13 countries allow capital punishment for apostasy. Oops, my bad. I meant to say 12. Pakistan only technically impose capital punishment for blasphemy, although this does include disbelief in God. Pew Research Center studies also show that the majority of those in countries such as Egypt, Jordan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Palestinian territories, as well as the majority of Malaysian Muslims, support executing apostates. It's good to know there are still plenty of freedom fighters like Muhammad out there today.
The fastest growing religion in the world is Islam. What does this tell you?
So Asim al-Hakim, to answer your question, what this tells me is that Islam is the fastest growing religion due to the fact that it encourages little girls to be married off at young ages and turned into baby-making machines, in turn boosting the fertility rates of Muslims, and then prescribes a death penalty for those that try to leave, resulting in a decent retention rate in countries where Sharia law is applied.
What have I gotten myself into?
In other words, it promotes religious freedom. Why would anyone possibly want to leave? Islam is a religion that encourages individuals to say what they think, even if it is about Muhammad or Islam. Muhammad made sure that those who criticized him or his religion were given the ultimate reward, a permanent vacation from life, that is. These two girls who used to sing satirical songs about Muhammad were fortunate enough to be recipients of one-way tickets to their early graves. It is also permissible to kill people on behalf of Muhammad if you hear someone talking badly about him, like the man in this hadith did, after overhearing the mother of his child talking smack about history's biggest First Amendment ambassador. In his book, The Unsheathed Sword Against the One Who Insults the Messenger, one of the most renowned Islamic scholars of all time,
one of the greatest scholars of Islam that Islam has ever seen, and it is someone whom I admire immensely, and that is Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala,
declares that whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed whether they are a Muslim or disbeliever. Ibn Taymiyyah explains that this is the general view of the scholars and quotes Islamic scholar Ibn al-Mundhir, who states, "The generality of the scholars have consensus that whoever insults him, i.e. Muhammad, is to be killed." The book then goes on to provide justification for this action, using examples from hadith like the one we discussed earlier, as well as peaceful Quran passages like this one.
Surah 9 verse 29. Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day.
Yes, and notice, the command is to fight those who simply don't believe, not fight them because they are attacking us.
But don't be fooled. People being killed for criticizing Muhammad or Islam actually has nothing to do with teachings like these or the religion of Islam, despite the fact its most trusted sources are filled with these commands. Taymiyyah also thoughtfully clarifies that it is permissible to spill the blood of anyone who annoys Allah, and that whoever had annoyed Muhammad also annoyed Allah. If I didn't know any better, which I don't, I might be starting to think that Muhammad was making up these Quranic revelations as he went along to fit his own agenda. Like these idolaters did who are quoted in Islamic sources as saying, "This Quran is nothing but the speech of Muhammad who has invented it." Why would they possibly think that? One of life's great mysteries. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, if you take issue with the fact that Muhammad had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl, married the divorced wife of his own adopted son, beat his wife, or allowed his followers to rape their female captives while their husbands were still alive, feel free to share your view publicly and openly. And always remember, if anything bad happens, it has nothing to do with Islam.
Including the death penalty for not only apostates, but also blasphemers.
Long before the rainbow flag or Pride Month ever existed, there was a man fighting hard to give same-sex couples the best life possible. Who was this man? You guessed it. Muhammad. Given the fact he had somewhere between 9 and 11 wives at the one time, Muhammad had plenty of relationship practice and knew the key to a perfect relationship. With the limited time he was able to spend with his wives, given the sheer number of them, not to mention his multiple sex slaves, Muhammad learnt that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Bearing this in mind, he concluded that a longer and more permanent absence would form the strongest relationship, and he decided to share this with those he cared for most by declaring that if his followers found anyone doing the action of the people of Lot, they should be killed along with the one whom it is done to. You can't get more absent than that. If you don't know what the action of the people of Lot is, maybe do a quick Google search or take a look at another hadith like this one, which clarifies things for you so there's no room for confusion. In Reliance of the Traveler, a manual of Islamic sacred law, this understanding is confirmed and it is also clarified. This act is deemed more vile and ugly than adultery. But apart from absence making the heart grow fonder, there is further wisdom behind this teaching. Let's check in with our good friend from Saudi Arabia about this further wisdom.
He says, what's the wisdom behind putting execution, capital punishment, as a punishment for killing others, for spreading corruption in the earth, for an adulterer caught red-handed, for someone who does the act of homosexuality. This is not my call. This is the law of Allah. And Allah Azza wa Jal, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is not obliged to come and justify everything to us. We hear and obey. If you do not submit your will to Allah Azza wa Jal and accept unconditionally whatever Allah tells you, you're not a Muslim. As easy as that.
I don't know how you could possibly question that philosophical mode of thinking, but in case you do, Muslim cleric Wissam Haddad from Sydney, Australia, is here to explain what that means for you.
We follow Islam. And yes, in Islam, we do not hide from the fact that homosexuality under the Sharia, after being judged with the Quran and the Sunnah by an Islamic judge in an Islamic court in Islamic land, is punishable by death. The idea that being a homosexual is okay in Islam, being persistent on this major sin, being proud of it, calling to it, promoting it, making it permissible, going against the textual evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah is clear-cut kufr. And a person who does so has clearly apostated from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And we all know what happens to apostates.
Ibn Abbas said, "The Messenger of Allah said, whoever changes his religion, kill him."
Human Dignity Trust research shows that 12 countries have jurisdictions in which the death penalty is imposed, or at least a possibility for private, consensual, same-sex sexual activity. And that, at least 6 of these countries implement it. 11 out of these 12 countries have something in common, and you're not going to believe what it is. 11 out of 12 countries are Muslim-majority countries. How could that possibly be the case? Your guess is as good as mine. But once again, this has nothing to do with Islam or its teachings on killing people that engage in same-sex sexual activity. Islam is a religion that promotes peace amongst believers and unbelievers alike. In the Quran, Allah's eternal speech, Allah refers to unbelievers with the endearing term, worst of creatures. In the Quran, we can also find plenty of peaceful passages, such as those commanding Muslims to fight unbelievers around them, slay others and be slain, or fight anybody for simply not believing in Allah. Muhammad would also reciprocate these peaceful commands, saying things like, he was commanded to fight unbelievers until they acknowledge him as a prophet. He also had a soft spot for Jews, in particular declaring the final hour wouldn't come until Muslims fight and kill Jews. Despite these peaceful commands, Vision of Humanity's Global Terrorism Index of 2023 found that in the year 2022, 9 of the top 10 countries most highly impacted by terrorism were Muslim-majority countries, and that 8 out of the top 10 terror groups responsible for the highest number of deaths in these attacks were terror groups that proudly associated themselves with Islam. Data collected by the Religion of Peace shows that as of the year I am making this video, 2024, there have been over 44,000 Islamic terror attacks since September 11, 2001 alone. A lot of these attacks are not only carried out against unbelievers, but also those who identify as Muslims. At this point, you may be thinking to yourself, if Muslims are also being killed as a result of Islamic terror attacks, these attacks and these terror groups couldn't possibly be linked to Islam. And of course, the reason you would be thinking this is because you, along with all of the others who are thinking this, have carefully examined the Quran, the Hadith, and many other Islamic sources. You've read that, in the Quran, Allah commands Muslims to strive hard against not only unbelievers but also hypocrites. You understand what a hypocrite in Islam is, and that those who are carrying out these attacks against Muslims couldn't possibly be doing so because they believe them to be hypocrites. But in case you need a refresher on what you already know, Let's listen to our good friend, Asim al-Hakim, explaining what a hypocrite is in Islam. Take it away, O wise one.
And if you look at the Quran, it is filled with evidences, with description of the hypocrites. It's not vague, it's crystal clear. This is to show people that you're a Muslim, but you actually are not. You hide disbelief.
So, Asim al-Hakim, I am a hypocrite if I try to hide my disbelief, maybe because I am too scared of being killed due to the penalty for apostasy. Tell us more.
You hate Islam.
I am a hypocrite if I hate Islam, after being forced as a child to marry a man with 3 other wives and who beats me if I step out of line in his eyes.
You look down at Islam, at Sharia. You considered it barbaric.
I am a hypocrite if I think that killing apostates, homosexuals, or blasphemers is barbaric.
You don't love the Prophet ﷺ.
I am a hypocrite if I don't love a man who had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl.
Now this is major kufr.
All of these things make me a hypocrite, and if I am a hypocrite, I am a disbeliever.
Hypocrites, they're not making a small sin that you can just brush it off your shoulder and khalas, kiss and make up, no harm done. No, it's problematic. It is something that takes you out of the religion of Islam.
But not only am I a disbeliever, I am also an apostate, and we all know what that means.
So I should be killed.
We did answer.
I deserve to be killed because I left Islam and became a Christian.
According to Islamic law, an apostate like you would be killed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But I digress. So back to Islam's beautiful teachings towards unbelievers. Why is all of this important? Well, aside from the fact that the world has been bleeding from love for the last 14 centuries as the result of endless Islamic peace attacks, as we have already seen, Islam is the world's fastest growing religion, and the Pew Research Center study we were looking at earlier shows that, by the year 2050, Islam will be close to becoming the world's major religion due to the high birth rate of Muslims. If you have watched my video, Understanding Jihad, you should by now understand that once Muslims reach a majority, Islam teaches them to implement offensive jihad. In this expansionist phase of jihad, Muslims are commanded to go around giving unbelievers 3 options.
Number 1, to call them to Islam. If they refuse, then tell them Allah obliged upon you to pay taxation, jizya. If they refuse, then we have to fight. And if we fight you, then we capture you, you become our slaves, and we take your land, and you take because you refuse, I give you 2 good options. This is the strength of Islam.
So, what happens shortly after the year 2050, when Islam becomes the world's major religion?
But this jihad cannot be accomplished, cannot take place, unless the state of the Muslims is strong. If you don't have a strong Muslim country, who can they pursue or attack? But nowadays, forget this, maybe in the coming 40, 50 years when the Muslims become strong as they're supposed to be.
It's always good to have something to look forward to. Now that I've been fair and shared some of the positive impacts Islam has had on the world today, let's return to the question at hand. Why criticize one religion when there are so many different religions in the world? Why pick Islam? Well, it couldn't possibly be because I disagree with child marriage or women being mistreated, or that I disagree with killing apostates, or that I disagree with killing those who insult Muhammad, or that I disagree with killing same-sex couples, or that Allah and Muhammad were talking trash about me long before I ever said anything about them, and I believe I have a right to respond to that, or that I would prefer that my family, friends, and I aren't violently subjugated now or in the future, or that I actually have Muslim friends and see them as victims of an oppressive ideology which I would like to help them and others like them out of. or that the world has suffered for the last 14 centuries as a result of these teachings, and I think enough is enough. No, none of those reasons could possibly be why I am singling out Islam. What must be the reason then? I must just be a racist, Islamophobic, hate-mongering bigot. And if that's what you think, you're more than entitled to hold that opinion, and you are more than welcome to continue to call me names and send me threats. This will make me stop and think. Stop and think about which is the next embarrassing fact I'm going to share about that wife-beating, child-molesting, finger-licking, tongue-sucking, demon-possessed, bewitched, suicidal, semen-covered pervert you call your prophet. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to see more videos like these, please also consider supporting me through Patreon.
Islam's not for me. Islam's not for